Hi.
Hi, sweetheart.
I'm so glad you're here with me.
I'm glad to be here with you.
You know, I am just crazy about you. It's true. And it's not just me. There are lots of performers in the comedy field who feel this way. You remember the first time I met you I was performing in Las Vegas, and I looked out over the audience, and you were sitting there, and it panicked me because I didn't know what to do. I mean, it was just amazing. Now, when did you know that you were going to be a performer? I mean, where did that oomph come from?
I think what did it for me is what does it for everybody. All of us that do comedy, I think, it goes back philosophically, of course, to you can't analyze dirt until you taste it.
Right. I like that.
I had to borrow my cousin's trousers to graduate from grammar school. They were white ducks and a blue jacket, which was loaned to me by someone else. The sadness of the moment, I had to get out of that sadness. And I used laughter as a safety valve. This was a very strict group of 60 children standing for a portrait. I had to discombobulate that a little bit to get through it, because I felt that I was the saddest one of the 60. They all had their clothes made or they had it bought. I had to use borrowed stuff. So I turned that sadness into what you later liked that I did, which was just mischievous 9-year-old junk, you know.
If you had to use 4 words to sum up Jerry Lewis, what would they be?
Tall, dark, cute, and Jewish.
Are you married? We'll be right back. You can tell us that then.
First introduced to the royal courts of York. What monarch is credited with the first...
Let me catch your breath here.
Now, what country was the king?
How many times you're overacting? How many cigarettes a day? Jokes are jokes, but I'm drowning. Read a little faster, will you?
To keep his mind on smoking.
Haven't you heard? The feud is over.
You and Dean Martin were the biggest, brightest stars. Everything you could have possibly wanted came your way. You were 20 years old.
Yeah.
What did that do? What did that do to your head? Because I know the first check I ever got, I mean, the first check that the government didn't give me, that like I earned. You know, because I don't want them coming to me now asking for that money back. I went out and bought like 11 pair of shoes for my kid and like 6 different pairs of pants. None that I wore because they were hideous.
But it was great to see him hanging.
But it was great to see him hanging and know that I could actually wake up the next day and pay the rent. You went from like $250 a week to $5,000 a week, which in that time frame was enormous, 1946.
Yeah.
What did that do? I mean, were you just like crazed? You were meeting everybody in the world?
I bought cars for my aunts, and I didn't have that much, but I thought I did. I went nuts. Oh, yeah. I went crazy. I mean, I spent $350,000 one Christmas on gifts for people I really didn't know that well. You can imagine what I got for those that I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get crazy. I went through that whole syndrome and had a wonderful time. But it taught me a great lesson. It taught me a great deal about stability and balance. I don't think I'm a hell of a lot better now. I mean, you let me out on rodeo, and I'll show you some. I'll be a piece of work you'll remember.
We should go together.
Yes.
You know, you don't really learn. You just sort of get more work to pay the bill. Because you don't say, well, I ought to save this for tomorrow, because you figure, well, I'll go get a gig. I'll go get a gig. So now you have become this incredible star. You have 10 years with Dean Martin. What do you think? What do you think made it end?
Well, I think that we knew, both of us knew, that there was so much more that we needed to do creatively. The creative process really got in the way of our continuing, while at the same time it was the best thing that ever happened because we knew we went to the limit.
Right.
And what I didn't want, more than anything in the world, was I didn't want what I call the Joe Louis syndrome. Joe Louis had that one fight too many. And to watch that champion get knocked through the ropes, I was so devastated, just as everybody else was. There's never been a champion like Joe Louis. Never will be in the history of time. And to watch that defeat and that fall, Dean and I both knew that was imminent. We went to the galaxy. And we both had so much. The creative process is what ended it. And we had so much that we wanted to do. Dean was tiring of playing that role. Little did he know he was really the key to it all working. But he was never given his due. He was always reading about the idiot, the monkey. He was this, he was that. Plus the fact I ran the business and I wrote the material and he played golf. It was a great operation.
Yeah.
We knew what we were doing. If he wanted to do all that I did, he'd have done it and to a fairly well. But we had the right routine for the two of us. When we decided the split had to happen, it was tough on both of us because we were afraid of what will the public accept us. Not that we only just stir it up a little bit and disrupt their habit pattern, but now we're going to go to them and say, now accept me alone. Who knew what would happen? But we had to take that shot because it was time.
It's
and
hard
we
on
had
a
a
team.
great run.
Yeah, you had a magnificent run. I mean, I don't think there's been a team.
There never will be, not
No.
what we had.
No.
Do you believe that we said the following? Did you take a bath today? Why? Is there one missing? And we made $8 million one
I'm
year.
laughing.
Okay?
I'm laughing.
I mean, we had the unmitigated gall, the temerity to stand up and do that joke. Well, it wasn't the joke. It was that we had that kind of guts.
Yeah.
And they saw the love that these two guys had for one another and the fun that they had doing it.
Right.
So it's really never what you say. Attitude is the key to your success.
Yeah. So now you're on your own. You make these wonderful movies that I know about. See, as a kid, I didn't know about Martin and Lewis. I only knew about Jerry Lewis.
We missed you, huh?
Yeah, you missed me. I came around in 55. I don't mind saying that.
That's okay.
You know, I'm proud of 1955. It was a good year. But the things I remember, and I'm bringing you a message also from Kirstie Alley because I saw her. And we were talking about men. And she mentioned the Nutty Professor and Cinderfella, which is, you know, that's the heartthrob one for us. So Kirstie sends her love.
Thank you.
But Cinderfella and Ed Wynn and all that string of movies were wonderful. And kids everywhere, young people, adults, everybody loved them. You went to France. They gave you the tribute that you should have gotten here and still should get here, but I won't get into that. And then the world started shifting filmatically.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, the world started to do the kinds of things, or at least demand the kinds of things that leave some of us behind because we wouldn't change. We wouldn't redirect our creative process. For example, I received scripts that asked me to portray characters that were against my nature. And I couldn't believe some of the things that I was seeing, and I found a terrible time in creating. I started as a writer, and I've been a writer all my life. I can't write the things they want me to write. I've had deal memos about mega numbers if I would write such and such, and then play such and such. I can't play a psychopathic, heterosexual, homophobic fruitcake who needs a lobotomy, a limp, hair lip, and hates the Japs and the Germans, but is basically anti-Semitic if he drinks as much as he takes shots. And I can't play that guy, see? And it got to a point where I said, well, I'll just lay back and wait because the circle always turns. What goes around comes around. You can just see so many shots of two nude people in a bed.
Right.
You can see just so much of the nudity and hear so much of the language that you're going to finally go back to basics because you get a belly full of that, and it happens very quickly. George Burns ain't 95 by accident. You'll always come back to that kind of humor.
Depending on who you talk to in Hollywood, they will either say, Jerry Lewis, or they'll go, ooh, Jerry Lewis.
Sure.
Are you hard to work with? Because I'm hard to work with. I mean, I have a very difficult reputation. I'm not difficult. I am difficult, but I'm not like difficult. Are you difficult or difficult?
I'm as difficult as anybody that wants it right. I'm as difficult as it is for anyone that hates incompetence. And there isn't a technician on a crew that likes incompetence any more than you and I.
Yeah.
But you never get it from your technicians and from your crew and the people that you have around you in your life. It's those that are not on the crew. That's where the rumors start. Now, I'll tell you who the other difficult people are. I didn't know you were one, but I'm glad to have you in the club.
Thanks.
Robert Redford's difficult. Barbra Streisand is difficult. Frank Sinatra is difficult. You want me to tell you who's not difficult? Troy Donahue.
You're right.
He's not difficult. Nobody has any problems with him.
You can just go leave that in my lap, huh?
You bet.
Okay.
Because that says it all.
Yes.
Great! Fantastic! Very fun. My all-time favorite was Goofy's house. I get to jump all over the furniture, what you can't do at home.
You have all of Walt Disney characters. They're all here.
He's our best friend. I love Gadget's Go Coaster. It was really fun.
That was wonderful.
Since 1902, world-famous literary and theatrical wits have called it home, steeped in history with service that is strictly today. 1-800-228-3000.
In 1972, you made a film called The Day the Clown Cried. It takes place in a concentration camp during World War II. And it's never come out. Now, what happened? Why hasn't it been released? I mean, I think it would be really good for the public to see, especially now.
Problem, Whoopi, was that we did what they call a French-Swedish co-production. And that co-production was a very, very strong financial marriage between the French and the Swedish governments. At the time that I did the film, which was 1972, Louis Malle was in Sweden doing a film. Ingmar Bergman was doing a film. And their two films are dead because they were doing topical films in 1972. The only reason that I have a prayer is because I was doing a film on the Holocaust. And the clown that was paid by the Germans to entertain the children in the concentration camp so that the people in the town didn't hear how terrified they were. He, of course, ends up leading them into the ovens, goes in with them. It was a marvelous film, and I got to just editing when they shut the door on the project. Now, I've tried everything from, I put half of my money into the film, or I should say, my money into half of the film, which is still sitting there. I can kiss that goodbye if we don't pull it out of there. The Swedish and French co-producing syndrome has never been resolved. And I repeat, Louis Malle is sitting with a $7 million film at that time.
Right.
Was a humongous budget.
Right.
And Ingemar's film is sitting there too. If they came up with an answer tomorrow, those two films are dead. Mine would have a chance. All I have to do is finish the editing, go into post-production, score it, and I've only got maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks work on it.
Right.
And I play a 78-year-old has-been clown. And you want to talk about dramatics, I'll show you some footage. It's pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
I had to lose 50 pounds so that I looked 120 pounds. And I had all the clothes made oversized, the prisoners' outfits and so on, so that I really looked emaciated. It's a very, very stark, very revealing piece of work. It should be seen.
Yeah, it should.
Because the neo-Nazis are starting up again in Germany.
Yeah. And you know, as I was reading your story of setting the scene, the last scene in the film with the trying to figure out how to get the kids to you before you started filming, children flock to clowns no matter what because they feel safe with them.
Yes, of course.
Why? Why is that?
Well, because the mask tells them that it's fun and that it's safe. And regular people, I think, in the eyes of children, they project a look that very often a child will need time to understand.
Right.
And adults don't generate instant love. It takes them a little time, too. And in defense of the adult, a child can be very intimidating. And also in defense of an adult, a child can be very aware very quickly.
Yeah.
There's an old expression that I wrote in a screenplay years ago. That's an old expression to me now, but if you really want to find out about who's visiting your home, have them there with your baby or a puppy.
Right.
The baby will move that way and the puppy will be under the couch. You better know you got problems.
Or if it's a really bad person, the puppy will leave something for the visitor, along with the baby.
I hope so.
Yes. Now listen, you're into sports. You have a lot of why didn't you become a baseball? You're like the baseball king. I'm listening to you talk about all this stuff. Who have you played with?
I played with 11 of the major leagues clubs. I have 11 uniforms to prove it. I have video, I have film, I have stills, suiting up. I've gone to Giant training camp in Phoenix for 8 weeks at a time and worked out with them. I played in exhibition games, inter-squad games. I hit a single and I walked when I played with the Houston Astros for Leo DeRocha years ago.
Leo DeRocha?
Yeah, yeah. I played with the Chicago Cubs when Leo was managing the Cubs. I played with the Giants when Leo was managing the Giants. And I played with the Astros when Leo managed the Astros.
What was he like?
Oh, he was something else. He was absolutely out of Damon Runyon. He was absolutely impeccable the way he dressed and was sharp and just so natty. I mean, he was something else. And then what would come out of his mouth, you know, we're going to eat, you're going to sit. You're going to sit, not eat. You're going to drink and eat, or you're going to not. That was Leo. And he was
It's a couple of my husbands. He's married to him.
He was just Mr. Plain.
Yeah.
Just nothing put on about Leo. He let you see exactly what there was. Marvelous man.
Yeah. Did he ever join you in any of the telethons that you did for muscular dystrophy?
In New York, he did a couple of times. As a matter of fact, I wrote him into a film that I wrote, in The Errand Boy. I used him and he loved it. Oh, my God. I had to get him a trailer, had to get him a valet. He insisted upon being picked up in a limo. We did it all. He sounded like he was kidding, but he meant it.
Yeah.
He wanted the flowers and all of the champagne, and I did it all. It was marvelous. It cost me a fortune. It was worth it.
For just $2.99. 2 eggs, 2 bacon, or sausage, and your choice of buttermilk pancakes, French toast, or a waffle. Only $2.99.
Whoopi Goldberg Show, Lily Tomlin reveals the inspiration behind her hysterical characters.
Flintstones, complete with the great taste kids love and the vitamins they need to grow strong and healthy. Actifed, the full prescription strength medicine that helps relieve the stuffy, drippy misery of a head cold. For effective relief, take Actifed.
At last, nationally advertised nail products made affordable. Lee Fancy Fingers press-on nails in clear colors and French manicure. Quality made affordable by Lee Nails.
Some nights you come to Vegas when I'm appearing there. And you see me do all that nonsense, including playing drums and dancing. I do everything. It's incredible.
Listen, I have to tell you, if I was going to spend a half an hour, there's nobody I'd rather spend it with than you.
Thank you, Whoopi.
So thank you for coming. Have a safe night. Good night.